Hello, just wanted to make a video talking about truth because I've really been reflecting a lot on truth and authenticity. I've shared a lot of posts online lately that have garnered a lot of controversy, and it's been hard, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I struggled. Normally, I'm pretty good at managing my emotions, and when somebody approaches me with negativity, I can kind of accept that they're coming at me with their negative energy and do my best to not contribute to adding fuel to that fire and engaging in a negative exchange. But recently, especially with talking about cannabis use disorder online, I have generated my most seen post. Last I checked, like over 7,400 people had seen it, and I got a lot of negative comments. And also a lot of positive, which I appreciate, and I don't want to disparage, the positivity that I received as well. But it kind of caught me off guard. I certainly expected and knew that there's a lot of stigma surrounding cannabis use disorder, and was expecting to face a lot of that. But it was like it felt like the entire cannabis industry was coming after me, which is not true. I had a person reach out, Genevieve, thank you, to tell me that the cannabis industry, needs people like myself, and that dispensaries, shops should be accepting that for some people this is a problem, and addressing it really and offering resources, which I totally agree with. Um, so it's not like, I was met with 100% negativity. Again, there was a lot of positivity, but there was also a lot of negativity. And, in general, when somebody comments something critical, I try to take a step back, examine what they're saying, and really ideally engage in a dialogue, because I think when we can engage in dialogue, when there's a back and forth conversation, when I say, one thing that I believe to be my truth, and somebody else, says, yeah, well, that's kind of true, but then I also think this, then that kind of broadens the circle of information, and now I can get somebody else's perspective. They can get my perspective. Maybe we disagree. Maybe we go back and think about that. Maybe we kind of sit with, is that really true? Maybe not. For me, it prompts me to learn more, to go look at studies, with psychosis, for example. There's been pushback on this psychosis thing. It's been established, I would say, in the literature, but there's not a ton of research. And recently a paper was published basically saying it was totally bogus, and they took a public health kind of perspective. But then another neuroimaging paper was published of 87 people across 3 randomized controlled trials, that showed that cannabis, THC specifically, activates a region of the brain that's implicated in psychosis. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, there's more to this story. And that's not to say that, there's a definitive answer there, but my point is that in trying to get to the truth, it's complicated, and there's often nuance and multiple sides and new information. And when things are working correctly, I believe, I step away from my emotional response, and I try to just be authentic to what I know is my truth and not to get fired up. Well, I get fired up to the degree that I need to kind of invoke a response, but to not attack that person's character, but to address the argument and say, look, you're saying this. I don't believe that's true, and here's why. But it doesn't always work that way, unfortunately. It got to the point, with a LinkedIn post that I referenced in particular, that people were coming after me. They were trying to discredit me. If, for example, I do ketamine assisted therapy and I charge $250 for a 2-hour session, and I can lower those prices if there's a financial need. That's less than half of what other people in the community charge, and I've heard of people charging over $1,000 to hook you up for an IV and to an IV of ketamine and leave you alone in a room for an hour with no music. So I believe that's fair. But anyway, somebody said, why is this guy charging $350 for a ketamine session? It's like, it's not $350, it's $250, but clearly he's just trying to make me look bad. I've had multiple people say that I'm predatory, or that my business is predatory, when really I'm trying to offer a service to those that need help with a particular issue that I don't see treated. And I could have a laundry list of things that people have said. That's not my point, but the point is that like, at some point people weren't interested in engaging in a dialogue and a conversation, putting aside their emotions and trying to get to the truth, but they instead kind of, it seems to me, were inflamed by the things that I was saying, possibly because the things that I'm saying are true to some degree. And, there's some protector part in them that doesn't want to face that reality. For example, if somebody has staked their entire business and their ego and their persona on, having patients as a cannabis dispensary owner, and that every person, that they see is, a patient of theirs that they're treating, and, that they're contributing to good in the world. And then I say, well, maybe some of these people abuse this substance, and you need to be aware of that. That kind of attacks their notion that cannabis is this wholly good substance, and they can't allow for any nuance or any kind of negativity in that situation, and so it's easier for them to come after me, and just to say it's me, it's my personal problem. Or even for somebody who, for example, has used cannabis as a medicine for themselves, has healed from cannabis, that's awesome. But that doesn't mean that every single person who uses it every single time is being healed by it. Like, that seems so obvious to me, with any substance, addictive or not, that the user's relationship to that substance, whether they're healing or being harmed by it, is dependent on a number of factors, including the person, the substance itself, and their relationship to it. But anyway, so it's really caused me to take this step back and say, what is truth for me? And how does that, what does it mean, I guess? Like, what am I doing in sharing my truth, and why am I getting this response? And for me, there's been a lot of people in history, a lot of, seminal figures, and I'm not claiming to be like them. I'm not claiming to make the kind of impact they've had, but, really people who have been dedicated to truth and were murdered or prosecuted for it. Just Gandhi, JFK, MLK Jr., all these people, they offered up something that went against the group narrative and were attacked for it. Again, I'm not any of those people or even close to who they are, what they've done, or what they've accomplished. But the point is that, they weren't rewarded for their truth. I guess in a sense they were, but a lot of people also attacked them for it, or came after them. And, what I've seen, there's this narrative of people who are really committed to authenticity that, they tend to spark some fires in people who maybe aren't ready to deal with that. And it's, for me, it's like I can be intense. I can be a lot of person, and the things that I say can be hard to deal with. And not everybody loves and appreciates that. For me, I think about kind of other figures who I'm like, okay, this person's a lot. Like, I appreciate what they're doing, but like Aubrey Marcus, Jocko Willink, Andrew Huberman. I mean, these guys are like intense. Peter Attia. It's like they got a ton of great information, and if you're into that, that's awesome. But sometimes you're like, man, I don't want to drink this stout drink you're pouring. So I get it. I get why people don't always love what I have to say, but I look at it like an ethical mission, and I kind of figure it out and all this, and igniting this controversy, that my kind of mission is twofold, and that's to increase human flourishing and to reduce human suffering. And I think I achieve that goal when I put my emotions to the side, and I'm dedicated to the truth, and then I'm engaging in dialogue and truthful speak. So that's why I do what I do, and why I share what I share. And it's easier a lot of the times, now for peace and quiet. And now I've gathered a following of over 3,000 people on LinkedIn, which to me is insane. And used to, I would be like, well, I want to see that following grow. I want to see people interacting with what I have to say. And now it's at this point where I'm like, man, I feel like sometimes I open my phone and I check LinkedIn, and I'm kind of like, oh man, I don't want to engage in an argument. I don't want to like get into it with somebody. So it's easier to kind of, just want that silence. But that's not always what you get. And so, yeah, I think I'm stepping into this new kind of era of what it means to share my thoughts online, and kind of some of the difficulty that comes with that, but also a greater acceptance of, like, my authenticity isn't always welcomed or encouraged or appreciated. But it's been really insightful, to sit with this, even though it's been hard. So yeah, I just wanted to make a video, and I've written about this topic too, but it's good to share my voice, my actual voice, and my thoughts in this format too. So anyway, if you're watching, thank you, and would love to hear your thoughts. Appreciate it.